thank you very much for everyone who put this together, inviting me here.
They had a certain something.
What would you say?
I knew the minute I saw Dave, he was going places.
They chased one goal relentlessly.
He just really had a clear idea of what he wanted. He loved music and wanted that for himself. Wanted that in his future.
Through struggles,
his headmaster told him he was certainly not going to earn a living in music.
And setbacks.
There was a horrible, horrible, horrible incident.
I remember there was a sign up on the door, due to a family emergency, Dave Matthews Band won't be playing tonight.
Some people are just driven. A soulful songwriter's defiant pursuit of superstardom.
He would get cortisone shots in his neck just so he could go out and take the stage.
Never before seen images, stories, and revelations from the people who know what really happened.
Dave was thinking in the back of his mind, I want to have a band. I want that guy.
Because they lived it with him.
He just looked at me and he's like, we're going to do this.
This is Driven, Dave Matthews.
Dave was born David John Matthews on the 9th of January 1967 in Johannesburg, South Africa. Dave's father and mother are John and Val. The eldest in the family was Peter, and then came Anne, then Dave, and the rudder, the tiller of the entire family was Jane.
They were a very tight family and a very close family and a very warm family.
Around the time David was born, it was sort of hardcore apartheid South Africa.
There was an inhumanity within the whole society towards black people.
Massive segregation, massive racism, everything as bad as it can literally get it, and it just got worse.
People of different racial origins could not live together. If they cohabited, it was a criminal offense.
There was no doubt that what was happening in South Africa was absolutely insane. David's family were Quakers, and Quakers in South Africa were traditionally very liberal.
Quakers, generally speaking, are pacifistic, don't believe that violence is a solution to anything.
And that often conflicted with the rest of South African society.
When Dave was 2, the family left South Africa for Yorktown Heights in the United States.
Yorktown Heights, the town where we lived, was very desolate, very wooded, very country. Not an awful lot going on.
Val and John wanted their kids to have a broader sense of what the world was like, the experience of going to public schools in America and mixing with a more diverse bunch of people.
And there was an opportunity for them to have a good life.
David's home life was very bohemian. There was just a lot of happy vibes in the household.
They were very musical as a family.
You wake up and there's classical music blaring on a Sunday morning.
I remember times his sister Jane and Dave would be sitting side by side on the piano bench, just plucking away at the piano. Dave was definitely a Beatles fan. Well, shake it up, baby, now. Shake it up, baby. Dave's father had a complete collection of everything the Beatles had put on vinyl.
I think David liked the complexity of the music and was quite fascinated by all the personalities in the band.
In fact, I remember one idea that he had was he was going to take images of the Beatles and have them transferred onto tiles and go door to door in his neighborhood and sell them. Dave was an interesting kid, to say the least.
David was always a performer, whether it was a stand-up comic at home or with his friends.
He used to just go in, all guns blazing, which was great to watch.
I wouldn't have called him hyperactive. He was dangerously close to being hyperactive.
Being at the Matthews house was definitely an interesting experience every time. And mostly, I think, to Val's credit.
She celebrated the delight that obviously Dave took in music and in art. Val knew how important art could be in a person's ability to express himself. And she tried to support him in having that confidence to stand alone and to be different.
David and his mother had a very strong bond. It was a good relationship. When he needed a shoulder, she was there. John Matthews, Dave's father, was a physicist, worked at IBM at the time.
David's father, John, was hugely important in young Dave's life.
The family spent a lot of time with each other. It seemed like when you went to visit the Matthews house, you got all of the Matthews. You didn't just get one of them.
Dave was 8 when his father's health began to deteriorate.
It was evident that he wasn't doing very well.
John was not 100%. And then there was the diagnosis. David's father was diagnosed having Hodgkin's disease, a lymphatic cancer that started the lymph system but went into his lungs. And John didn't want to have his lung removed. He felt that would be the termination of it, and indeed it's what it was.
Dave was about 10 years old when his father, John, died.
He was very close to his father.
There's no doubt about it. It's traumatic.
It's a young age, 10 years old to lose a father. To lose a friend or any family member, but a father especially, I think.
There's no doubt that his absence was enormously felt in the family.
Dave was, being the little man and just sort of toughing it out and dealing with it.
He had to be brave and not actually articulate his grief. That doesn't allow that grief to go away.
I do remember moments, when we would be playing together, he would all of a sudden just want to be sitting quietly and drawing. He did a lot of that.
The impact on young Dave, I think, must have been extraordinary.
It all comes down to nothing.
Next, Dave struggles to find his place.
Dave wasn't the cooperative, conforming boy.
We all thought that David was a little bit lost. And those that were close to him were concerned about what the hell he was going to do with the rest of his life.
After his father's death, there was a little change of Dave's habits. It's a tough thing to have a parent be absent.
There was suffering, but because there was that suffering, there was a strengthening that took place. Val was very resourceful, very strong, and that strength permeated into the children.
What Dave was able to do was express himself and to release that through a good outlet like music. Dave had begun playing the guitar.
Guitar lessons were very important and not to be forgotten about. He could miss a day's school, that was easy, but he would not miss a guitar lesson. Several years after John's death, Val and the children returned to South Africa.
She was looking for support, to have people around her that she knew, that she loved. Matthew's family were all centered around Johannesburg, so it seemed like a good thing to do for the family.
It would have been very tough.